Hello, and welcome to the OnStage Colorado podcast. I am Alex Miller, and here once again with arts reporter and man about town, Toni Tresca. Hey, Toni.
Good morning, Alex. Pleasure to be here.
Hey, so it is June 1st as we record this, so we made it to June.
Happy Pride, everybody.
Yeah, happy Pride Month. So as usual, we'll review some of the latest shows that we've seen and some that we reviewed and go through our weekly list of Colorado headliners. And this week we're going to kind of focus on Denver Fringe Festival, which is coming up with dozens of shows coming up this week from June 6th through June 9th. So lots of stuff to talk about there. And it's, we've interviewed some people, some fringe performers, so we have a good idea about some of them, but a lot of them are you just get like maybe a couple of sentences about what it is, and you just kind of have to roll the dice and go in and check them out. Tony?
That's part of the fever of fringe is you kind of don't know exactly what you're walking into. You just
That's right.
You get maybe a little blurb, maybe an image on the website or some idea of the style that it's going to be in. But yeah, it's always a trippy experience because they're usually about 45, 60 minutes long, and they can go in any direction.
Fringe is like a box of chocolates, Tony. You just never know. Sorry.
Whipping out the Forrest Gump references early
That's
morning.
That's right. So yeah, speaking of Fringe, I do have another interview. We've been kind of trying to catch up with some of these artists as best we can. So Jack Dawkins is Colorado artist, rapper, and storyteller, and who has a one-man show. So he is going to be on podcast a little bit later. So we'll hear about his show and also hear a little bit of his music. I was just listening to it. I am not a rap guy, but so it sounded pretty interesting.
It's interesting. I think he uses rap very much in like a forward the storytelling tradition, which is very common within the overall rap genre. But it's quite different than the Drake Kendrick beef that's going on right now.
That's still going on.
Kind of, I don't know. I think last I heard, Kendrick Lamar had taken out Drake pretty hard. So, but this isn't a rap podcast.
Don't know much about it. So anyway, we were just talking before we started here that we're kind of caught up. A lot of the shows that are up right now have been up, and we've already talked about them. We've reviewed them on the site. And so it was a little bit of a quiet week. In fact, I didn't have any shows this weekend. I know you've got a couple, but I did want to talk about one that we were both at last weekend, which is Impossible Things, which is kind of fits in with this. We were talking about immersive theater last week, and kind of we hadn't gotten to this when we were talking about that. So Impossible Things is a joint production by the Catamounts and Hanson Studios, along with the Museum of Outdoor Art, which is right near Fiddler's Green. And boy, that was a fun show. And it's an outdoor thing. And I don't know. Do you want to? What's your elevator statement? How would you describe Impossible Things?
It's a graduation party that kind of descends into fairy tale land. And it's this incredibly site-specific piece that's been written around these specific performers, as well as locations within Lonnie Hanson's Cabinet of Curiosities, which is this absolutely gorgeous. It just feels like something out of, like walking into Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. That's the closest experience. It just feels otherworldly. There's so many trinkets and items in there. And then you kind of see those different fairy tale elements played out throughout the park in these really interestingly staged scenes that kind of are about growing up and this transition between childhood and adulthood.
That's good. Very good. Yeah. So, when I wrote the review, I was like, man, there's a lot of pieces to it. And it took me a little while to kind of pull it all together into what I thought was a decent description of what it was. But I mean, one of the things I called in my review was wholly bespoke. I mean, there was no performances will be the same. The audience is sort of part of it. So you're walking around this beautiful grounds that they've created there in this Marjorie Park, I think it's called. And so you've got the Cabinet of Curiosities, which is kind of its own little house. And it was wonderful. Chris Kendall, who a great Colorado actor, and very kind of like a perfect part for him. He was kind of wearing this rumpled smoking jacket and a kind of a battered hat. And he was serving drinks, and weird drinks.
He literally pulls out a bar card.
Yeah.
Like in the middle. I had no idea it was there. It's like this very magical moment, and then
Uh-huh.
he asks you if you want it alcoholic or non-alcoholic, except they
Yeah.
don't they use fancier words than that.
Octane or high octane. So anyway, so that was a ton of fun. And then, at one point, we talked to, I guess it was Mother Goose,
Mhm.
who was, kind of sitting there. And that was, Joan Bremer Holden, and Maggie Tisdale plays this, kind of batty, what's her name? Barb?
Barb,
Barb?
from A
Barb?
Touch of Barb party planning.
She's great, and she's wearing. I said in my review, she reminded me of like the women from Edward Scissorhands. She's wearing this like kind of like
Oh,
day
that's
glow
funny.
sort of, I don't know, crazy outfit. And she was very, very funny. And then Mark Collins was in there. So this is some of the Catamounts regulars.
And then Betty Hart was there as the queen of hearts.
Yeah, so Betty, big friend of the pod and a friend of both of ours. So we're totally biased, but she was awesome. She was very funny, and she had a great sort of British accent. She was kind of a jerk.
You have to refer to her in a certain way that I don't want to spoil, but just know that she will get on to you if you mess up.
That's right. Yeah. So can't recommend this enough. And I don't know that they have many spots of this left. I would imagine. I imagine it might sell out. But if you get a chance to see this, it's really something special under the stars, and especially the weather, I think, is going to be cooperating. It's going to be kind of dry and warm out. So unless there's a hailstorm that sweeps in, you should be able to check it out. So definitely a cool thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you got to talk afterwards, because both Alex and I, we were in different groups, so we totally experienced impossible things in different orders. Like I started by going to the cabinet first, so that was a very interesting experience to have it then unfold from there. But where did you shoot off to first?
I started with Betty as the queen, so we went all the way around because I think we were the first group. So that was and then the one with Mark Collins, he had kind of this sort of silly puppet show, but he also left us with and so Jess Austin wrote the script, and I'm sure she wrote this pamphlet too about wolves and how to deal with wolves, which is a little timely here in Colorado. I'm sure the ranchers, that hate wolves might benefit from this pamphlet. No, it's mostly like, don't leave your house because wolves will get you. They're going to get you.
That was pretty much the moral to that story.
Yeah.
Don't go outside or you'll be eaten by wolves.
Yeah. And then also a shout out to Laura Mares, who also a friend of the pod, has been on because she had the stage direction of this thing had to be timed perfectly because you had all these groups going and moving kind of in a big circle. So that was really well done. And the whole thing just came together, and it's like, it was kind of touching at the end, where the character of Alex, who's played by Mel Schaefer, it's kind of like the audience, along with all these other characters, kind of help figure out where they're heading in life as they graduated high school. And so anyway, but neat stuff. And then a couple other quick ones that are opening that have just opened this weekend. Percy Jackson, Lightning Thief, is at the Aurora Fox, and that's always a fun story if that's your jam. And then the Hombres, Tony Meneses play, who he's a kind of an oft-produced playwright here in Colorado. So the Hombres is at Vintage Theater, so that's someone I would love to check out. I know Tony Fitzgerald will be there covering it for us, as well as the Lightning Thief. But yeah, definitely try and get out and see those two up in Aurora. So one of the things that I guess our main topic today we wanted to talk a little bit about before we get onto some our fringe picks was ticket prices. So I was listening to, and this is something that's come up a few times, but we were talking last week. You were saying that we were just having a conversation about going to Red Rocks and stuff, and you were saying you were trying to get tickets to see Olivia Rodrigo, and they were just astronomically, astoundingly expensive to get. Can you tell them?
That's accurate. Yeah, Olivia Rodrigo. She's over at the Ball Arena in July. I'm a big fan of hers, and so I was great. She's a great artist. But tickets just got so insane so quickly over there. They were selling through Ticketmaster initially. However, they quickly sold out. And tickets, by the time that I was looking at them, were well into the thousands of dollars. And this is her one of her first major tours. I guess maybe technically her
she's
second.
Like 12. He's a very
I
young
guess
artist.
a hair older than 12,
Uh-huh.
but the point stands. She's still pretty new to the game, and yet I was effectively, I was not effectively, I was priced out because I was
Yeah.
just like, I cannot afford to pay that much money to go and see the Guts World Tour, even though I really want to, particularly because that ticket price is not the only thing that I would be paying. It would be the ticket price in addition to, anybody who goes to Ball Arena, you have to pay for parking over there. And all the expenses that come with getting in there, and then getting into Ball Arena has also gotten increasingly difficult over the years too, with all the additional security, which is good, but it's a lot. It's a process, and that steep ticket price kept me away.
Oh yeah, and a beer is $100. A bag of chips is $48. You want to, they charge you at the water fountain. It's $5 to take a sip of water. No, it's really expensive over there. And I was thinking about so I was trying to get. Sometimes it's not even the price, but sometimes the process can be a real roadblock. I was trying to get tickets to see Vampire Weekend at Red Rocks earlier this spring, and I just could not penetrate the bureaucracy. It kept like kicking me out, and I was there waiting when they first went on sale. And eventually, because I kept trying, and finally they were like, "You're a scalper," and I was like, "What?" I guess because that's the way maybe those bots work, is they just keep hitting it over and over again. So I got shut out. So I couldn't even, even if I had $7 billion or whatever it was, Vampire Weekend's not, I think those were going to be expensive tickets, but, and it's just gotten to where who is paying for these tickets? What is the demographic? What is the I guess the persona of an Olivia Rodrigo fan who has thousands of dollars to spend on a ticket? I mean, it just seems like, the person who could afford that would be someone who wouldn't be into that music, or I don't know. It's baffling.
I will not use their name here, but I have a friend who's didn't purchase to the Olivia Rodrigo concert here, but they did purchase $4,000 tickets to the Taylor Swift concert in Denver here, and their occupation is coder. So
right,
you gotta cut. You either have to, I guess, either be rich or work in a very lucrative profession.
Yeah, and prioritize that because as 3 of my 5 children are all software coders who are are well paid, but none of them would spend that. Like Max loves to go to concerts, but there's no way he would ever spend that on a show. He'd be like, "That's ridiculous," So you've got to
because
have
it
the
is
money.
Ridiculous. He's right.
Yeah, and so just I think I was telling you when I first started seeing concerts. This sounds ridiculous, but I mean the concert tickets were like $8, $10, $12. I remember when I saw Pink Floyd The Wall at Nassau Coliseum, they only did 10 shows, 5 in LA and 5 in New York, and the tickets were $20, and we were all aghast. We had to pay $20, and the shirts, you could buy them from these guys running around outside the Coliseum for $8 or $10, and now a shirt is what, 30, 40, 50, something like that. So the whole thing has just gotten so insane, and so it got me. And the other thing is that so Ticketmaster is kind of become this evil monopoly of Live Nation, Ticketmaster, where they own the whole thing. They own the venue, they own the beer, they own the ticket, the
parking,
fees and all that, the parking, everything,
concert promotion.
Yeah, and so the U.S. Justice Department has just filed a big lawsuit against Live Nation, saying you're too big, you got to split up. And so the Daily Podcast last week had this topic on it. So it made me think about what our experience is. Now, a lot of tickets here in Colorado go through Access at AXS tickets, which I don't think they're related to Live Nation, but I have to say that the experience is no better that I can tell with them versus Ticketmaster.
Yeah, it's still tricky. I'm not sure if Access is a part of it. I know that a tricky part about Ticketmaster / Live Nation Corporation is that they do also own a lot of the secondary platforms,
StubHub, yeah, right,
as well. Exactly. So,
which is so sleazy. That's sleazy.
Exactly. I mean, and you would think that's like a textbook definition of a monopoly going in there, because they have all of these different vehicles that control it. It's essentially, I heard it described on the Journal podcast as a flywheel that kind of feeds itself. because of the strength in each of these individual divisions, it kind of allows them to increase their profitability and increase their margins on all other sides of the business. So they can squeeze the people who are doing promotion, as well as parking, as well as the ticket fees, as well as the tickets themselves, as well as just all of the venue owners that they're working with, all these different things. And it's not as big here in Denver because there's not actually a ton of venues that are actually owned and operated exclusively by Live Nation, but there are a couple. The Marquise Theater, the Summit Theater, and the Fillmore Theater are owned and exclusively operated by Live Nation Ticketmaster, which you're like, wait, that's got to be, how did this get approved? But in 2010, under the Obama administration, this merger was approved, and they put in a 10-year consent decree that was supposed to put conditions on this, including prohibiting Live Nation from withholding concerts from a venue that chooses to use different ticketing firms to manage the sales. However, in 2019, that consent decree was extended to 2025 because Live Nation repeatedly violated the conditions of that merger and pretty much exclusively shut out all other ticketing agencies except for ones that it itself owned. So even if it's not Ticketmaster, it's StubHub or one of its other subsidiaries that it also owns.
Yeah, so they use some pretty strong arm tactics to keep it. So I haven't heard this in a while, but thanks, Obama.
I mean, yeah, I was kind of it really was a massive mistake, honestly, by the Obama administration to let this merger go through, because there was a ton of scrutiny about it at the time. I was doing some research about it. There was a lot of pushback. People were like, this is clearly just, you're allowing the two biggest people, the people who own the ticketing and the people who own venues and promotion, to come together to make a mega thing. But it got through on that, with that wimpy consent decree that the companies repeatedly violated, and now we're here as of May 2024, and the DOJ is now suing these companies over the merger that it allowed.
Yeah, and the Biden administration has definitely been a little more, quite a bit more aggressive with antitrust law and the Justice Department to go after.
Absolutely.
Some of these things that really been allowed to kind of just run rampant, and it's all to the detriment of the consumer. And the idea that I think about 16-year-old Alex who was able to go see Queen at Nassau Coliseum for $10 in 1978. That person today could not afford to go see whatever you would say the equivalent is today, Olivia Rodrigo, whoever it is. They're being shut out, and it's a whole generation of music goers that may not be able to experience live music because of that. And that's why I gravitate to shows that are at the Ogden or the Bluebird, or you can still see great shows that are $35 tickets, great bands that, maybe not Taylor Swift level, but you're still going to see a great show. So
sure.
Look for those.
And Taylor Swift is she's the figure that kind of caused a lot of scrutiny to come out after in 2022, Ticketmaster's website crashed during pre-sales to the Eras tour, and fans were so angry. Taylor Swift herself called out the company, and I guess just in proof out of fairness, that Live Nation vehemently opposes these accusations of monopolies. Shockingly. They adamantly deny it, quote, that the DOJ's lawsuit won't solve the issue fans care about relating to ticket prices, service fees, and access to in-demand shows. Calling Ticketmaster a monopoly may be a PR win for the DOJ in the short term, but it will lose in court because it ignores the basic economics of live entertainment, such as the fact that the bulk of service fees go to the venues, and the competition has steadily eroded Ticketmaster's market share and profit margin, that's not actually untrue. Ticketmaster's profit margin has significantly shrank over the years, just because the cost of live entertainment is so significant, and the way that it runs its company is kind of interesting. It uses the concert promotion division of Live Nation kind of as a loss leader, essentially, lowballing that division so that they can charge so much more to the actual consumers on the ticket side. So they kind of use that as their big profit winner and lowball the other areas. So It would, if this breakup kind of goes through that the DOJ allows, there would definitely be some reallocation of those fees. But I mean, this is definitely monopolistic practices. As much as Live Nation wants to make you say, it's not.
And then of course, the other, I don't know, devil's advocate here. It's like if you all of a sudden you do have half a dozen different ticketing companies that then you have to try and figure out who's got tickets. There is some benefit to having kind of one evil overlord for all of it. But
absolutely,
I know there's a lot of elements to it, and it may be that the venues are charging a lot and they're letting Ticketmaster take the heat, when it's really other things going on as well.
That's exactly right. And a lot of artists, they actually are really against this. They've come out and been like, no, because a lot of those fees do actually go back to the artist, but they like putting that on Ticketmaster to be like, it's not us who is charging you these. We want to charge you $50 concert tickets, but it's Ticketmaster who is making you pay $100, $150 for this.
The NRA of the entertainment world. They just take all.
Yeah, and Live Nation also pushes another argument that they use against this is that they're looking at the wrong place within the industry. If they really want to lower ticket prices for consumers, the place we should be looking is not actually these companies. It's the secondary market, the scalpers that you were kind of mentioning earlier.
Yeah.
If you capping the actual resale value of a ticket, because currently at the moment, scalpers can buy up all of the tickets and resell them for these thousands of dollars, which is what I was essentially looking at when I was looking at the Olivia Rodrigo tickets. I wasn't looking at it through Ticketmaster. That wasn't selling it to me, except that it was because Ticketmaster also owns StubHub and the secondary market. So that crackdown would also put some limitations on Ticketmaster and Live Nation, but in a slightly different way than a total breakup.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. But I don't know what the answer is, but I will say one thing. If we flip the page here and talk about live theater, it's a lot more affordable. So, I do hear people, and I think a lot of times, especially people who are not as familiar with theater, they compare it to a movie. It's like, well, I can go see a movie for, whatever, $15, and I got to pay $50, $60, whatever bucks for theater ticket. And it's like, I think that's the wrong comparison. I would compare it to any other live performances, like a concert, where you've got to pay performers, you've got to have the venue, you've got to have the, all that stuff that goes with having a live performance. So I was just looking. So Colorado Theater, live, so the big one is the Denver Center and the touring Broadway shows. Those are usually the most expensive shows that you can go to. But even then, and some of the big ones, you might have to spend several $100s on a ticket for something in what they call the Golden Circle, which is kind of down there on the floor by the stage. But I was just looking like, so a show that's been around for a while, like Frozen, is coming to town. It's not a new show, but you can get tickets as low as $35. You're up in the nosebleed section, but you can also, tickets in the Golden Circle are $125, which is, that's still a healthy ticket, but that's pretty good compared to a lot of other shows that come through. And if you look at like the Arvada Center, their tickets are in the $38 to $83 at the higher end. But then there's places like Buntport, which is a great little theater that does original content, which is like pay what you can. So you could go in there and obviously you should pay what you can, but you could pay, as little as $5 if that's all you can afford. Buntport wants you to be in the house, Curious Theater, which does, top-notch professional productions, is in the $40, $45 range. And then even Candlelight, which is, you get dinner with it, is like an $80 ticket, which is, that's a more expensive evening. But like I said, you get dinner. You do have to add a tip onto that. And but some of the other theaters are like, you can go see perfectly, really good shows at places like the Firehouse or the Springs Ensemble Theater Company, and in the mid $20 range. I was looking around like Theater Aspen, their shows this summer. Of course, it's Aspen. Their tickets are in the $90 to $143 range. But then, there's other things like, so you were getting ready to, I think you were talking about Sarah Silverman last week. You could see her at Comedy Works for $50 or $60. A lot of the Comedy Works shows are in the $30 range, and I think you'd have to buy a couple of drinks, but you would do that anyway, probably, right? So,
it's a 2-item minimum that you, I guess, also have to factor into those tickets as well. But, and yet Comedy Works is kind of on the high end of comedy prices in this town. Denver Improv is the second highest, and then kind of goes a little bit down from the in terms of ticket prices, not quality, because there's so many great spots to see comedians all around town. But yeah, it's a lot lower and more. I know places charge as little as $5 to get into some of these open mics, or there's even free comedy at nights around town. So
yeah, for sure. So if you can't afford to get into Taylor Swift, you should head over to Buntport. It's going to be a different experience, but it's still going to be an entertaining evening, right?
That's got to be the headline for the podcast right there,
right? Yep. If you can't get it to Taylor Swift, head to Buntport. Yeah. So, are there any other shows that you wish you could have seen this summer that you've been priced out of, Toni?
I was also priced out of. We were talking about Red Rock's Film on the Rocks recently, and I was about to buy tickets to go see the Shrek film on the rocks out there, but that event has sold out, and tickets had also gotten insane in terms of the resale value, because tickets are there's $20 normally over there, which is totally reasonable. Also, just like makes it a great excuse to go out to Red Rocks. Yeah. I am going to go later to see Mad Max Fury Road for $20, which I thought was totally reasonable and sounded awesome. But Shrek was like in the hundreds of dollars to go. And I was like, absolutely not. I love Shrek. It would be awesome to see it out there on that screen, but I am not paying that much money. So not a concert, but an experience.
My mind. That blows my mind. I don't understand that. Yeah. And really the ticket resellers there should be a cap. You can't sell it for more than whatever double or triple the face value or something like that. So you'll get to see Mad Max. So, just real quick, you saw the new Mad Max George Miller thing, Furiosa, right?
I did see the new Furiosa.
It's kind of bombing. What did you think of it?
I thought it was all right. I think that it's no Fury Road, but I don't think that it needed to be. I thought it was an interesting story. I really enjoyed Chris Hemsworth's performance in there as well. Although, I mean, it is definitely, you're absolutely right. Definitely bombing. It is the lowest opening Memorial Day weekend in over 40 years. So that is, it's not a great sign for the box office that wise. And tickets over there are getting a little pricey too. Not quite.
Maybe people just couldn't figure out how to translate the actor from The Queen's Gambit into the Furiosa character. I don't know.
Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't. I doubt I will either. It's like, Fury Road was fun, but it was kind of exhausting, and I kind of feel like, I don't know, if it's just kind of more like driving around, shooting at each other kind of stuff. It's like, I don't know.
That is the film's biggest problem, is that it doesn't introduce anything new. Right. You know exactly how it's going to play out. Yeah. And I guess that's like all prequel problems, but in this one, you really do feel, I felt the kind of like redundancy a little bit.
I think the next one should be they should be electric vehicles, and so a lot of the action would be focused around trying to recharge your vehicle while you're fending off, attacks.
George Miller said, who was talking about that in an interview, I think it was with the Hollywood Reporter. He was
really?
Like, no electric vehicles. They don't allow you to go the distance that I need you to be able to drive in the desert or something like that.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
But that would be funny. That would be an interesting.
Like the electric charging stations would be like fortresses. I mean, kind of like in the Road Warrior, where where they were refining gas was the fortress. But I don't know. So yeah, it's another thing. I look at those things the same way I look at like NASCAR or Indy cars, and it's like, God, it looks like such a waste of gas. It sometimes just bothers me to see that much wanton use of fossil fuels. So anyway, all right. Well, one other thing I was just going to mention, a really good interview on the Daily the New York Times podcast today with Richard Linklater, whose new film Hitman is out, and a really cool conversation with one of America's great directors, who everything from Boyhood to School of Rock to Dazed and Confused, and so much great work, and he's still at it. And it was also interesting. They talked a lot about he's I think 62, 63, isn't that old? But he was talking about how he's doing a 20-year project of Merrily We Roll Along. I was like, what? The Seinfeld.
And I've heard the Sondheim show. I've heard about this. They're shooting it in real time because the musical plays out backwards. So they are filming in reverse order, starting when the actors are the age the musical ends
Yes.
on. And so it is an incredible concept. They've got some really interesting actors in there. It's I believe it's Beanie Feldstein is in it. Ben Platt maybe. It's some really interesting actor. Let me double check.
Interesting project, yeah. And it was funny because the reporter was saying, well, you're going to be like 80 years old when it's finally done. He's like, so? He's like, I'm working under the assumption that I'll make it that far. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll be working until I'm in my 90s, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm super excited. I was like, I think it's a really interesting idea, and particularly after the recent success of the Merrily We Roll Along revival in New York, I think it's a great idea. And yeah, I was right. It's Ben Platt, Beanie Feldstein, and Paul Mescal as the three leads. They're shooting in real time.
Okay, fascinating. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll take a look at our Colorado Headliners Fringe Special Edition, plus my interview with Fringe performer Jack Dawkins. OnStage Colorado is brought to you by the Aurora Fox Arts Center, whose production of The Lightning Thief, the Percy Jackson musical, runs through June 23rd. Adapted from the first book of the best-selling fantasy series, the show springs to life with dazzling special effects and a riveting pop rock score capturing the imaginations of children and adults alike. Tickets at aurorafoxartscenter.org. The OnStage Colorado podcast is also sponsored by Town Hall Art Center, whose production of The Prom runs through June 23rd. Big city stars set themselves on a collision course with small-town PTA politicians in this sequin-covered musical comedy. Get tickets at townhallartcenter.org. Support also comes from the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, Betsy, whose upcoming season starts in July and includes Grounded, Enemy of the People, The Ballad of Paula Aguilar, Little Women, Hope and Gravity, and The White Chip. More information at betsy.org. All right, we're back with the OnStage Colorado podcast. I'm Alex Miller here with Toni Tresca, and this week's headliners, kind of our top 10 stuff. We're going to just focus on Fringe Festival. The Denver Fringe Festival is in its, fifth year or something like that.
Right.
And it's like the biggest ever, and it's over June 6th through 9th at a number of different venues, kind of in the downtown Denver, Rhino-ish area. So like the Mercury Cafe, there'll be some at the Bug, there'll be some at Woods Boss, all these different venues. And so it's a little bit of a challenge to figure out how to fringe. So you've got all of these shows, and they do have a really good sort of a PDF that kind of lines up all of the shows by venue and date. So you can try and figure out what you want to see. But it's still a little bit of a challenge. So the way I was looking at it, I was like, well, I'm just going to go on Thursday. I'm going to go to the Mercury Cafe and just see the 4 shows that are there that evening in a row. And so I'm just going to call out those because, like we were saying, it's hard to know exactly what you're getting into. So and since we haven't seen any of these shows, we can't say this is the ones we would definitely recommend. So anyway, so if I hit the Mercury Cafe on Thursday, I will start out seeing Oh, What a Beautiful Morning, which includes a gerbil's funeral and cocktail club for cats. I was like, okay, I'm down with that. And then there's something called the Cabaret of the Unexpected, which is comedy and storytelling and theater from 9 different Colorado creatives. And then next up is He-Man is the Devil, a Satanic Panic Tale, which sounds pretty intriguing. And then we have 2 horror. This is two of at least 3 horror themed shows. So this first one is She Was a Conquista Whore, a woman and her vagina, a cowboy named Pete on a sexual manifest destiny to take back the land, one cis white man at a time. So I might have to wear a mask or something when I go in there. And then American Horror Story. So this will be at the Bug. So that's I think that's so. The first 4 were at the Mercury, and then I think I was going to go see American Horror Story on Sunday at the Bug. And this one, of course, was when we had Naomi Grossman on the pod last week to talk about this show and her experience as an actor on American Horror Story. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. So that's kind of my quick fringe lineup, and there's a whole lot more, but that was just kind of my dumb way of saying, okay, here's 5 that I would go see. What about you, Toni? Now, so you have the kind of unfortunate fact that you won't be here for Fringe Festival. You're going to be back, it's not some family. Was it a wedding or something in New York? And
my cousin is graduating from high school.
graduation, right? Yeah.
So I will be out of town starting on this upcoming Wednesday. So,
but if you were here, what are your fringe picks?
So if I was here, so I sat down with Anne Sabat for a piece over at Denver Westward that's coming out next week to kind of talk a little bit about how to make the most of Denver Fringe. So I'm going to shout out a couple of things that she kind of specifically highlighted.
So Anne Sabat, the founder of Denver Fringe, big organization.
That's right.
Yeah.
And one of the things. So first thing is one of their new things this year is Fringe Art. It's their first visual art show. It's actually currently up at the Ironton Distillery, and it'll be there through June 21st. It includes visual art pieces that are all based around the theme On the Fringes. So Ironton Distillery is one of the partner venues. They're doing some shows there. And so if you happen to swing by there during the Fringe Festival or after, you can check out some of the amazing art that's on display there.
Right.
For those who want to kind of like get a taste of Fringe, maybe you don't have time for a full show, or maybe you don't have a budget to kind of purchase either the festival pass for $75 or individual tickets for $15, you can hit up the Fringe Free-for-All, which is another new addition, which includes pop-up street performances throughout Rhino and 5 Points by groups such as Raw Groove, Circus Foundry, and unprofessional musicians. So that's the Fringe Free-for-All. More information there. Another thing that is really exciting is the return of Kids Fringe. So that is within the Fringe Festival, this is a free 2-day mini festival for children and families on June 8th and 9th, over at the Savoy, which is an excellent space over there.
That's a great one to mention. Yeah, the Kids Fringe.
Yeah, so they've got 2 original shows, The Big Bug Adventure and Sickly Victorian Rat Circus, as well as puppet shows. I know, what a frickin' title right there.
Sickly Victorian Rat Circus, I love it.
Yeah, so they've got those 2 originals, as well as puppet shows and interactive storytelling performances. So that's the Kids Fringe, 2 days, June 8th and 9th. I also wanted to shout out a friend of the pod, to 2 Cent Lion Theater Company's immersive show, Josie's Diner, which is going to be taking place actually inside a real life cafe, Butcher Block Cafe. And this show invites you to immerse yourself in the cozy world of Josie's Diner by ordering a cinnamon roll and drinking a cup of coffee while the story unfolds. So I think that one's going to be one that you don't want to miss. And then my final shout out is this is their first time instituting workshops. And so this year they're going to be doing 2 different workshops. First one is on Saturday, June 8th by Vision Box Studios founding artistic director Jennifer McRae-Rincon. She was leading All the World, a conversation about solo performance at the Savoy Denver. And on Sunday, June 9th, Jack Dawkins, who we're about to hear an interview with in just a second, whose show Integration is also in the festival, is going to be conducting a storytelling workshop entitled Reclaiming Your Story. So
yeah, and he talks about that in our interview coming up, so a little bit more detail there.
Yeah, so those are kind of my 5 picks. The Fringe Art, Fringe Free-for-All, Kids Fringe, Josie's Diner, and then the 2 different workshops.
Fantastic. Yeah, this is it's going to be a fun festival. There's so much going on and so many options to check out. So yeah, lots of great stuff coming up at Fringe, and you can get denverfringe.org. You can go on there. It's really easy to buy tickets on there. The $75 pass is the best deal. To see pretty much anything, but $15 a show is very reasonable as well.
Yeah, and if you're still having trouble deciding how to best tackle Fringe, Anne recommends that you follow the Denver Fringe on social media because they're sharing out curated lineups of shows in categories such as comic relief, perfect date night, and solo state to kind of help you plan your weekend if you'd rather see shows based around a theme. So that's another fun way to tackle the festival.
That's great. That's a great idea. And then one last thing I was going to mention is that I created so we have all of the individual Fringe shows on the OnStage Colorado calendar, which you can find, by just going in regularly looking. But if you go to our site and go under shows by category, you'll see there's a Denver Fringe Festival drop down. And so you can kind of have a custom made Fringe Festival calendar where you can see everything in different ways. You can see it by map, by day, things like that. So it's another way to, try and figure out how to Fringe on the OnStage Colorado site. So cool. Well, speaking of Fringe, we're going to get to my interview with Jack, whose show Integration and Workshop are coming up. So we're going to lead in listening to a little bit of his music here, and then we will get to the interview. So stick around for that.
Against me every week is the showdown. 10 Jack Queen King Ace, I'm a pronoun. Ludicrous flow when I roll out. Do my best work, but I zone out. Ice on my lips like a snowplow. Juggernaut flow, don't slow down.
All right. Well, we are here with Jack Dawkins. Thanks so much for being on the OnStage Colorado podcast today, Jack. It's great to see you.
Likewise, Alex. Thanks for having me.
All right, so you are going to be performing at the Denver Fringe Festival, and you don't have far to go since you live here in the Denver area. So, it says according here, you're a Denver-based rapper, poet, and storyteller, and so you like many Fringe performers, it's a one man show. So this one's called Integration, and I just wanted to kick off by just asking what is Integration? What's the show about?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the theme of the show has a couple of arcs, but one of them is me trying ayahuasca for the first time. And
right. I knew there was an ayahuasca thing. I was
yeah. There's a thread somewhere in there. Yeah. And so at least my experience of it is so you go and you sit with the medicine and you have this journey and great, but it doesn't really matter if you can't take your experience and find a way to actually bring it home and incorporate it into your life. Right. Because if you just have this experience and it stays wherever you are, I was in Costa Rica, it's not really of value to the people that I love or my community or the city or anyone. And so the show in some ways is kind of a double entendre. Part of it is making this art was what allowed me to actually integrate the experience that I had and really sit with it emotionally and figure out how I would explain that and express that. And it's also the story itself is of how the experience integrated into my life. So it's both the experience I went through to make it and then the story itself that I'm portraying.
Uh-huh. So for those who may not be aware, for one thing, ayahuasca, every time I hear of somebody doing it, it's always like they had to go to South America or Central America or something. Why is that? Can you not consume it in Colorado, or it's probably illegal here, or what?
It is. If I'm remembering correctly, it's a Schedule I narcotic. So it is considered highly illegal in the United States. Although that said, there are places as local as Boulder where I know people are serving the medicine. So with all things, people find a way around it. But yeah, so the way I did it is I did 4 ceremonies in 4 nights. And so it's kind of a deeper dive, and to kind of go that deep with the medicine, it's often easier to leave the country. As ridiculous as that sounds.
Okay. So without, I don't know, spoiling your show itself, I mean, what is it? So, like many people, I've done mushrooms and other things. I've never done ayahuasca. I mean, what is the difference between that kind of an experience than sort of maybe, I don't know, garden variety hallucinogens?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest difference as I experienced it is that with ayahuasca, I was actually in conversation with the medicine or myself or whoever, but you can actually you can ask questions about what you're seeing and what you're experiencing. You can get feedback on what's happening. And the way I frame it is that having done a lot of personal development work with either coaches or therapy or books or self-reflection, so often the frustrating piece is that it's just a dialogue with yourself and you don't get any external feedback. Whereas this really feels like you are talking to, again, something that is in conversation with you. And that to me was a very unique part of the experience that I hadn't had before.
Okay. And so, and the other part of this is that there's so you had an album of music, I'm assuming it's rap, came out last year, and that this is part of that whole thing. Can you explain how they all fit together?
Yeah, 100%.
One-man show.
So
Yeah.
when we were so the album came out last November, and as we were getting ready to roll it out, we're scrolling through Instagram and TikTok and looking what other people are doing. And our perception is that it all looks the same. And unless you have a really specific love for the artist that you're watching, it's really hard to make something stand out. So we started asking the question, what else could we create as a way to share the album that doesn't feel like what everyone else is doing? And that inevitably leads to, okay, what do I think I can do that other people maybe can't? And I have this storytelling background on stage. And so he said, what if we told the story of the album and added the songs into the show as a way of advancing the plot so people can really feel how narrative the arc is of the music? And so we sort of built and put together this show as a way to showcase the album when it released. But then the feedback we got is, this is great. You should keep doing it and keep sharing it with more people. So for the last 3 or 4 months, we've kind of pivoted our attention to just the show so that we can do it for Fringe. And we've actually gotten accepted to another festival. So we're going to hopefully keep doing this.
Okay. So your show is kind of, it's part one-man show, but also part concert, I guess, sounds like.
And it's part concert and part documentary. And like, we have all these different textures that we're folding into it, which is really rewarding.
Uh-huh. Okay. And so, if I'm just trying to think of like the audience for this show, do you have to be a rap fan, would you say, or just any kind of a theater fan?
No, I think I think liking story. So if you watch Netflix stand-up specials, particularly ones that tend to have more of a story arc. So like, I think Mike Birbiglia, I think Neil Brennan, I think people who kind of really try to take you somewhere through a set versus just hitting you with a number of punchlines. Hot button as he might be, I think Dave Chappelle's an incredible storyteller. If you enjoy kind of hearing someone work through and walk through what the emotions were in a meaningful experience in their life, I think this is a great fit. You don't need to be a hip hop fan or historian or anything like that. If anything, I would say like, if you have an appreciation for poetry or spoken word, that might sort of pique your interest, because I think that's more the style I lean toward. But really, it's, if you enjoy stories, I think you will really like the show. Okay.
So in some of the material that I was reading about the show, you talk about it being an immersive experience. So how is the audience kind of combined into the performance in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things we invite people to do is really bring their own emotions to the experience. And so a part of that is like inviting a lot of expression. So if people want to cheer, if people want to scream, if people want to yell, if people want to dance, if people want to take up space, like, they are welcomed into doing that, particularly during the musical numbers. And one of the things we try to do when we open the show is break people out of this idea that they're supposed to be sort of silent and still in their seats. It's really an invitation to move and to jump into the show. I know the second piece, part of what we're trying to do thoughtfully and intentionally is bring people into what it feels like to be on ayahuasca. Uh-huh. And so there's a couple of musical numbers where we're doing a lot of things where we play with lighting, we have some visuals in the background, and we have the music going. And so again, we're just trying to make the theater space feel very different during those stretches so that the audience has a clear sort of internal knowing that we have departed normal life here in a different space. And then you kind of get to come back and using that transition to help people go on the journey, I guess I would say.
Okay. And so this performance is going to be in the Bug Theater, which compared to a lot of the Fringe spaces is definitely on the larger side. It's a decent sized theater. Are you going to be using the stage to bring people up at all, or is people going to use? There's going to be more sort of traditional setup.
I think for this run it'll be traditional, but what I'm realizing is like this show is, I think, in a wonderful place to share, and it's still evolving. It's the same story, but between the performance we did in December and now this one in June, I've probably rewritten 40 to 50% of the script. Wow. Again, the larger arc is there, but there were certain anecdotes I chose to take out and then include, and different details to highlight, different themes I'm finding as I continue to tell the story. And so I'm just enjoying watching it continue to evolve. And like, I'm sure as we continue to perform it, it will just refine and refine and refine.
Uh-huh. Great. And so you mentioned that you also got to accepted into another festival. It's the Vancouver Fringe Festival.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that the one you were talking about? Are they?
Yeah.
So what's that process look like for either Denver Fringe or Vancouver Fringe? What's the I don't know, application or audition process like?
Yeah. So the big question, if you're going to apply to a Fringe festival, is to what extent they are lotteried or not. And so with Vancouver, it's truly blind. They sort of say, as long as you have met like the very basic criteria with your application, you get thrown into a pot and you kind of get picked out of a hat.
Okay.
We were actually on the wait list. We were number 7. And this was back in maybe February. And so I forgot and was like, yeah, that's clearly not going to happen. And sure enough, 6 people ahead of us passed. And so we got a call a few weeks ago to get in, which is why it's always worth applying, because you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then other than that, it's like usually they'll ask for a script, some marketing materials, a description of your needs, because again, part of what makes Fringe so special is they're using all these different venues. And so the biggest thing they need to make sure is that they have enough appropriate spaces. And so we use video, we use lighting, and we use sound. So we're a pain in the butt, relatively speaking. So there's only a small number of spaces we can go that are quote unquote full service. And so really the application feels like they're trying to understand, who are you? What is the show? Why do we need this show in our festival? Whether that's because it's an ongoing theme or a yearly theme or something that's very topical in the moment. And then again, the technical stuff to kind of make sure that they can actually give the show what it needs to be special.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I know a lot of the Fringe performers, it's just them and a bag of costumes or props or something like that, and you've got the full on. You got to bring.
And I love that. I love that there can be that much diversity within one shared festival, and we learn a lot from each other as artists, which is great.
Great. And how long is the performance? Is it about an hour, or a little less than that, or?
It's about an hour. My guess is all in, it's going to come in at 50, 55 minutes. But yeah, an hour is the longest it would go.
Okay. Great. Well, it sounds like a really interesting piece that I think a lot of people will really enjoy, especially those who are ayahuasca curious or even rap curious. It sounds like a particular, really unique piece of art. So hopefully I can get out and see it. I'm going to be out there checking out as much of the Fringe stuff as I can. So Jack Dawkins' one-man show Integration will be at the Denver Fringe Festival at the Bug Theater on Thursday, June 6th at 7:15, and then Sunday on June 9th at 4:30 p.m. And then you're also going to be hosting a workshop called Reclaim Your Story Sunday at noon at the Savoy in Denver that weekend. Yeah. So can you tell us just a little bit about what that workshop is all about?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So one of the funny side effects of getting into storytelling on stage is realizing how much of our own lives is really just a collection of stories we've told ourselves for a long time that we then project onto the world around us. And sometimes that's great. Sometimes that could be a really benevolent exercise. And sometimes we tell ourselves stories that aren't true and aren't in support of either the person we want to be or the life that we want to live. And so what the workshop is about is learning to identify stories that you're telling yourself that you no longer want to keep, and then writing new stories to replace it with that might orient you toward a set of habits, a way of living, an attitude, a mindset that make you feel more connected to who you really are and why you're here on this earth.
Okay. Great. So it's not necessarily for creators. It's just for anybody who wants to rewrite their own story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think selfishly, I have a helpful spin for creators because I've been in the trenches of like the creative muck, which is when I really want to make a thing. I don't know how to make the thing. And I see all these reasons of why I can't make the thing. And it makes me want to quit. It's like, cool. That's a perfect place to be, to start to examine the stories about why it won't work or why you can't do it and see where there's opportunities to rewrite. But I think that's the same of anyone who is in a job that is functioning, but maybe isn't actually fulfilling them in any way, or a relationship, should end, but you're not ready to end it because you don't know what comes next. Like, I think these crossroads are common for all of us, and there's different versions. But I think having a toolkit, so to speak, of what do you do when you arrive at this intersection of like, I'm not happy with where I'm at. I don't know where I want to go. Now what do I do? And this workshop is trying to answer some of that question.
Wow. Yeah, that's certainly something that resonates for me as I've kind of recently become an empty nester and trying to figure out like life after parenting. It's like all of a sudden this job you had for 20 or 30 years, it's over.
Yeah. And I know that can bring up a lot of emotion. That can be really scary and great. Like let all those things be present. But, if you and I are working together, I then get to ask like, cool, like what parts of yourself are you excited to explore or what? And honestly, the answer made me rest. Like I think so often the story is like, right. I am allowed to rest. I am allowed to slow down. I don't have to move at the pace I did for 20 years, 30 years to keep up with my kids. And so, I just try to hold a benevolent space for people to ask questions that feel scary to ask out loud and then gently guide them in a direction that makes them feel empowered.
Okay. So you sound there a little bit like like a therapist. Is that something else that's in your wheelhouse?
Certainly not like legally. Not licensed in any particular way. I'll try to make this very short. I grew up in a house with a lot of big personality. And so I learned from a very young age how to just shut up and listen. Okay. And it's amazing how powerful it can be to just see people and hear people where they're at. And so I've done that for a long time. And then I've been on my own journey of rebirth and rediscovery and trying a lot of new things. Not a lot of people jump into hip hop at 35. Right? Like that is one of many reinventions I've had. And in doing that, you just start to notice patterns of what it looks like when you come to a crossroad and then sort of working through them enough times to be like, oh, cool. Like there is a pattern. There is a way to kind of game this system a little bit. And I'm just trying to gift that game to people so that it feels less like, oh my God, what the, I didn't ask them if we could swear, but oh my God, what am I going to do? And change it to like, oh, cool. Like I know this feeling where it feels like there's a lot of pressure and I have to get this right. And I'm really nervous. And to change that to like, cool, when that happens, now I know that there's a series of questions I can ask that give me a sense of where I would like to go or where to go next.
All right. Well, Jack Dawkins, great to talk with you. It sounds like a fascinating piece that I hope people will get out to check out at the Denver Fringe Festival. So best of luck, break legs, and all of that. And also good luck in Vancouver in the fall.
Amazing. Thanks so much for having me, Alex. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Makes me want to go out and do an ayahuasca trip. How about you, Toni?
Yeah, honestly, after hearing your conversation and my conversation with Jack, I think it's definitely something I'm curious about. He makes a compelling case.
Yeah. It's funny. I think about I used to really enjoy mushrooms when I was in my 20s and college and stuff like that. And I kind of feel like I'd be a little nervous to do hallucinogens at my age. I don't know. Maybe I have too much baggage, but maybe in small doses or something. I know it's supposed to be really, really enlightening and helpful for your mind, right?
So they say.
Yeah.
You can always microdose.
Yeah. So it's really interesting how it used to be something that was so really, you could talk all you wanted about drinking and maybe smoking pot, but hallucinogens was something that you really kind of like heroin you don't want to talk about. Now it's much more, people realizing there's a lot more to it than just getting high. It's got these really interesting, mental health properties to it that can really. I have a friend that was microdosing and really found it helped her quite a bit. So anyway, well, thanks again to Jack for walking us through that. I think so. Next week, as we said, you're going to be out of town. My son Andy is moving to Guam, so we're going to be having a big going away party for him and busy with that. So I think we're going to take next week off after all of this flurry of activity. So we'll be back in mid-June with all new episode with. We'll have I have an interview I did with Ann Penner, who's going to be reprising her role in the one woman show Grounded about drone pilots. So I may have that one, and then we'll see what else is coming up. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the OnStage Colorado podcast wherever you get your audio stuff. give us a review, a couple of stars, and let other people know about this podcast, because we'd love to get the word out a little bit more, because the people that do find us really, really enjoy the content and the fascinating discussions that Toni and I have about theater, and also just the heads up to all these great shows that are going on out there. So be sure to check out the website with all of our other reviews, news, other podcast episodes, and our full statewide theater calendar on the website at onstagecolorado.com. So I'm Alex Miller.
And I'm Toni Tresca, and we'll see you at the show.
Yep, welcome to June Theater.